Yo, welcome back to Tremonte and Friends Boxing. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and let's get into it. Is Vasiliy Lomachenko, aka The Matrix, is he an all-time great? I believe he is an all-time great. Was he also simultaneously a little overhyped by the media? I definitely think that's the case. We have to take into account that Lomachenko has an insane amateur career. He has over 300 amateur fights, and I think he only lost one time, which is kind of unbelievable. And he's a two-time Olympic gold medalist. In his professional career, he didn't even have 25 fights. He didn't even have 25 fights. He had a world title shot very early on in his career, which I think, most of you watching are probably aware of. And he lost his second professional fight to Salido in what some people deem is like a controversial decision. But he went on a run afterwards, collecting belts, beating a lot of good names. He didn't have an easy career. So even though he didn't have a lot of fights per se, he had a lot of tough fights. And at featherweight and super featherweight, I believe that's where he was at his best, at 126 and 130. Lomachenko's a small guy. He's a small guy. He's probably like my size. I'm 5'6". I think he's 5'6". But he had to move up to 135 to get the big names. And even there, I think he did well for himself. Everyone knows he lost to Teofimo. And I don't know why this is a weird fight to me, because Lomachenko, how he was fighting the second half of the fight, he should have fought the first half. But injuries, end up piling up on you as you get older. And then, he also ended up losing to Devin, which I watched that fight live. I thought it was a really close fight. I don't think it was a robbery. I remember initially thinking like, man, Lomachenko probably got it by a round. And I remember rewatching it, and I was like, I could see Devin winning. It was a great fight, great fight. Devin's a much bigger guy than Loma. So again, Loma accounted for himself well. But throughout his career, and then, he beat Kambosos his last fight, and then he retired, which people kind of seen coming. Lomachenko, in the eyes of the public, was fantastic to watch. Master angler. I remember betting my brother about the Lomachenko and Rigondeaux fight. And I'm like, man, Rigondeaux's output isn't enough, and he's just a smaller guy. It was like Lomachenko can do everything he does, and he's bigger. My brother swore me up and down. This is my brother who boxed. He was like, nah, man, Rigondeaux's going to stop Lomachenko. I'm like, I don't think so. And seeing the fight, you can see the difference in skill level. And Lomachenko just kind of bullied him around. He wouldn't have got those bigger fights in the higher acclaim if he didn't move up. He was dominating so much at 126 and 130, nobody could do anything with him. So in order for him to challenge himself, he had to move up. He's one of the greatest fighters of our era. He fought some really good names, man. And it's not about quantity. So going back to my original point of him not having a lot of fights, it's about quality. It's about who you fought, when you fought them. What kind of condition were they in? And Lomachenko, as he got older, you could tell his heart wasn't in it as much as it was, a few years ago. Obviously, his home country being in a war, didn't help things out a lot. He actually went and helped out his country, which we should salute him for. He did it voluntarily. I think he's a man amongst men. He should get more credit. On the other side, watching him and Lomachenko's his fighting style is so endearing. As he would jab, he would parry punches, he would spin opponents. His footwork is probably, if I couldn't name you 10 boxers in history of boxing whose footwork was better than Lomachenko in his prime. I couldn't. I'd be hard pressed. I think anybody would be hard pressed just on the footwork aspect. It was like, I read somewhere that he had took like ballerina classes when he was young, and I think that might have contributed to him being so agile and nimble on his feet. So overall, I do believe he's definitely a Hall of Famer. I do believe he's an all-time great. The public has this thing with Lomachenko where they believe he's not as good as people were making him out to be, like in his prime. People were saying like, oh, he can challenge Floyd at 130, who would win, or he's the best. And I never thought that. Never thought that about him. But I did. The eye test is something real. I didn't get to watch him up close, but to watch him I watched all his fights basically that were televised. To watch him do it, you won't see that for a long time. Somebody that good. Somebody that entertaining. He doesn't put on boring fights. He's not going to run. No matter how small he was, he fought Teofimo. He fought him. He fought Kambosos. Even, in his losses, he's going to fight. And that speaks to his heart and his grit. And a lot of people don't have that. He wasn't trying to shy away from, engaging. And so that's my, my opinion, as a person who loves boxing, someone who's watched a lot of fighters and a lot of fights over the years. Definitely a Hall of Famer. I do think on the other side of the coin, there were some times where he was overhyped and people built him up to be something that he probably wasn't. He's a great fighter, one of the best, definitely one of the best of our generation, especially for the weight classes that he fought in. But do I think he could contend with Floyd or Roberto Duran at the weights? No, I don't think that. And that's no diss to him. It's just sometimes your gifts, like the way Lomachenko fights, just to entertain y'all, the way Lomachenko fights, if he would have fought Floyd at 130, if he would have fought Floyd at 135, talking about like Floyd in his prime, Floyd would probably shut him out. And when I say shut him out, I mean he'd win by unanimous decision because it's just a difference in skill. And Floyd's a defensive master. All the stuff Lomachenko can do, Floyd can do, but Floyd can also figure you out. And again, that's no diss towards Lomachenko. I'm doing a video because I love Lomachenko, love watching him. Definitely one of the best fighters I've seen, and I'm only 37 years old, in my lifetime. So should get more credit, but you can't receive a bunch of adulation without honest critique as well. And the only critique I have of Lomachenko is that the media pushed him a little too far with him being the greatest thing since sliced bread. So let me know what you think in the comments. Please give me your opinion. Everybody has an opinion, doesn't mean anyone is right. Definitely believe he's one of the best again. And I hope he stays retired. Hope he stays retired and enjoys his life. He deserves it. Hope he doesn't come back to boxing and try to fight. It'd have been good to see him fight like Tank when they were building it up, or fight Shakur, something like that. But we got what we got. We got to live with it. Like and subscribe to the channel. It's Tremonte and Friends Boxing. I'll get with y'all soon. Peace.